What's up everyone and welcome back to another video. A super common problem players face in Fortnite is that they feel like they're amazing and creative, they can roll through even some of the best players on their friends list, but the second they step into a real game, they feel like their skills just disappear. Believe it or not, this problem is actually not uncommon at all, and in today's video, I'll show you guys exactly how to fix it and transfer your creative skills into real games such as public matches, arena, and tournaments. Before we get into it though, be sure to drop a like if the video helps you out, consider subscribing if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content just like this in the future, and lastly, if you want to show some extra support, it would really be appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you, it only takes a few seconds to type in, and it seriously does help me out a bunch. As always, a big thank you to everyone who uses my code. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So the first tip I have in order to transfer your creative skills into real games is the crucial tip of practicing your weaknesses. What a lot of players do when they practice in creative is they go into the same exact map they've been doing for months and have already mastered, and they'll go ahead and practice things that they're already great at. One of the most important ways to improve at this game is to find what it is that you actually struggle with, and then use your time in creative to actually improve upon those weaknesses, since those weaknesses are often the reasons why you struggle in real games while doing good in creative. To do this, the process is super simple. Play out some regular games just like you'd usually do, and look back in replay mode after a little while to basically just see what went wrong. Take some notes about what actually led to your deaths in these games, and do this over time consistently to figure out what your weaknesses are. From there, you can use your creative practice to actually target these weaknesses and improve upon them. For example, if you keep whiffing your shotgun shots, you may want to spend more time in aim duels, or if you keep messing up a certain edit, spend some time in an edit map or even in your own world working on it. This is actually insanely helpful when you do it on a consistent basis, and it should help you to carry over your creative practice to real matches. Moving on from that, my next tip to carry over your creative practice into real games is to practice in harder conditions. What I mean by this is that creative is pretty much a perfect environment. Usually you practice with full HP, great loot, and you even have higher FPS and lower ping than you do in regular games. And overall, there's really just not much working against you when you're playing creative. But once you get into an actual match, this all changes. All of a sudden, you have FPS drops, your ping is 15 points higher, you can't find good loot, there's people all around you, everything's a mess, and you uninstall the game and you quit forever. Okay, maybe not that last part, but you get the point. The truth is that creative is a near perfect environment, and making your creative practice more difficult is very helpful. There are tons of different ways you can do this, but some I like include playing on a different server to improve with higher ping, using lower tier loot in your fights, using lower HP, or even just playing against higher skilled players. That way you have to use more advanced strategies in order to win. So with that said, if you find yourself playing an absolute ton of creative in perfect conditions, switching things up and making your creative practice more difficult can definitely give a much closer simulation of the real game and can help you step up your game significantly. Moving on from that and into our third strategy to transfer your creative skills to real games, and that's to play against a variety of players. What a lot of players do when they practice is they'll jump into creative with their friends, they'll play some 1v1s and stuff together, do some practice maps maybe, and then they're all done. But after a while, after playing against the same exact players over and over again, you're gonna start to get complacent and get accustomed to their playstyle, and vice versa. When you're in creative, it's super important that you play against a variety of players, since no two players are gonna be exactly the same. If you play against the same 3 or 4 players all the time, you're gonna be really good at fighting those 3 or 4 playstyles, but then when anybody pulls out something different, you're in a tough spot. So I recommend that if you find yourself playing against the same players, that you try to vary up the types of players you go against. This could mean playing larger modes like realistic PvPs or zone wars, or even doing things like matchmaking and 1v1s to play against random players. Moving on to our final tip for this video, guys, and this one is so simple yet so many players seem to miss out on it, and that is simply to play more real matches. Creative is a fantastic way to improve at the game, don't get me wrong, but for some reason a lot of players love to sit in creative and improve in there, but then they'll hardly play any real matches and wonder why when they do play real matches they struggle so much. Believe it or not, in order to improve at something you actually need to do it. Creative is a great way to improve and learn skills that you can bring into the real game, but practicing in creative is not going to be a replacement for the real game, as they're two entirely distinct categories of Fortnite. The analogy I like to use for it is something along these lines. Real games are basically the foundation of your skill set, as in the foundation of a house, and they're the way you kind of build like general competence in the game. Without real games, you have no foundation. On the other hand, creative is the building blocks. Building blocks without a foundation, aka creative without the real game, is going to crumble easily because there's nothing actually holding it up. On the other hand, a foundation with no building blocks, aka a bunch of regular games and no creative, is also going to be much less effective because there's no actual structure. It's basically just a strong foundation of, I guess, just nothingness. So take the time in creative to build up your blocks and improve your mechanical skill, but also don't forget the foundation of your practice, which is the real game. If you find yourself being amazing in creative but awful in real matches, chances are you have your building blocks but you have no foundation. As simple as this tip is, simply play more of the real game and a bit less creative. That might be your key. Another brief side note when it comes to the real matches tip is something that a lot of players face is that they feel great and confident and creative, but then they get nervous and shaky in regular games. This confidence issue is often due to the same exact reason as our last tip, which is simply not having the necessary experience in real games. If you have this problem, the simplest way to solve it is to do exactly what I was talking about before, which is switching up your practice from creative to more of the real game. You should absolutely still use creative, but as we talked about before, you should also use the other 3 tips to optimize your creative practice for more carryover. But with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to transfer your creative skills to the real game in Fortnite Chapter 4. Overall, by following all the tips in this video in both your creative practice and in real games, you should find yourself improving in regular matches while simultaneously improving your skills in creative as well. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing as well if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content just like this in the future. And lastly, if you want to show some extra support, it would really mean a lot if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you, it only takes a few seconds to type in, and it seriously does help me out a bunch. As always, a massive thank you to everyone who uses my code. But with all that said, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.